We're gonna be making Animal I Have Become by 3 Days Grace from scratch.
So many times I've tried.
Using nothing but fake instruments and my voice. I'm gonna show you everything from how I do the bass, how I do the guitar, which plugins I use, everything I do from start to finish, recording vocals, processing vocals, tuning them, the whole nine. And I'm gonna show you how easy rock music production can be now with the modern tools that we have. And I'm also gonna have this video marked by chapters, so if there's anything you wanna know from the recording process or anything about the drums, just look through the chapters and find what you're looking to learn, and I'm gonna teach you some secrets. You can learn some secrets today. So let's get started. I have the instrumental for Animal I Have Become right here in the playlist so I can kind of play along with it. I'm gonna start by making the drums. I'm gonna be using the Matt Halpern pack by Get Good Drums, which is a fairly standard library, but I'm gonna be using it in a way that is a little bit unconventional, I think. Let's just go for Church Burner maybe. So in the beginning, we just have the straight kick and that's it. So I'm gonna do the kick. And because these kicks are kind of weak, I usually do them at the highest velocity possible. Oh, also I have Camel Crusher at the default preset on my master, so it's just acting as a clipper, because I just like clippers better than limiters. So we're gonna get this kick laid out. So in the intro, it's just the 4 on the floor kick. And then we got this little feel. And that sounds like a triplet to me, so let's go into our grid settings, do 1/3 a step, get a little granular up in here. And a good thing to do with whenever you have fast kicks is start editing the velocity just a little bit. Just play around with it until it sounds good to you. But try to think of what an actual drummer would do, like what it would sound like if they're doing a triplet. You know, the middle of the triplet is probably going to be quietest because it's the least like accented thing. And then whenever the guitar comes in, it sounds like it's really simple. 4 on the floor, and then a snare on every 2 and 4. So we're just going to do that same 4 on the floor pattern, but without the floor, I guess, because on every 2 and 4, the snare is going to come in and the kick will not. So during the verse parts, whenever it's like when he's singing, we're going to keep the snare velocity lower, and then every time it does the little thing afterwards, you know, it's like, I can't escape, down, and then it goes down, and the hats pick up, and the snare we can make a little bit louder just to have a representation of that energy. And then for the chorus, it's very similar to the 4 on the floor thing, but instead it's going boom, kick, boom, boom, kick. So we're just going to go boom, kick, boom, kick, boom, kick, boom, boom, kick. The drums in this one are very simple. Then the second half of the chorus, same thing. And then at the end, it does that little... And that is called a triplet. That just sounds like a snare flam and then 2 kicks. So that'll be pretty simple also. So we just do... Change this grid to 1/3 step again. We can probably get 1/6 of a beat actually. Now I'm just going to go from the verse to the first chorus because after that it's pretty much the same even in the bridge. And I mean, we can't be here all day. Now we just need to do the hats and the cymbals and we're good to go. Okay, so when the guitar comes in, we just have a hat doing, I don't know, what's that, 8th notes maybe? Oh, there we go, closed. So it's just gonna be like this. And let's edit the velocity a little bit. just to give it some realness. And we can hear a cymbal that goes along with the kick and snare, so it's like or maybe that's an open hi-hat. I don't know. I'm not very good with the cymbals. I'm gonna just tell you that. With cymbals, I just kind of play around with them till they sound good, because I don't know how to play drums, so you know. That sounds good to me. And for those cymbals, usually anytime there's like really simple cymbals, I use Metal Step Mayhem by Phase 1 because, bro, just let me show you this. It's such a time saver. He's got China 4x4 and Crash 4x4. And it's at 150, so I'm gonna just time stretch it. And bro, the shit just sounds, it just works, man. Just throw those in there, turn down the volume a bit. And it doesn't sound that great by itself, but just watch, just hear me out, hear me out. Put a high pass filter on that thing, cut out like a lot of the lows. And maybe I should do stretch instead of resample because they sound a little bit too low. And you can almost hear like an artifact of the stretching, but in context of the whole mix, once the guitar and bass is in there, you really can't tell. Psycho acoustics are a thing, and they are your friend. We've got a little accented cymbal, and then the hats come back. Okay, so that's going good. We're just gonna copy this and paste it. And then when the chorus comes in, we're just gonna take our cymbal loop and bring it back. And then at the end, we need a triplet cymbal to follow the drum and snare. Okay, so now that I have the drums drawn out, I'm gonna show you a neat little trick I like to do to really make these drums cut through the mix and sound nice and big. And it actually has to do with mic placement more so than the actual mixing. Changing the mic placement on these and soloing out these drums is gonna allow us to sculpt each one and make them as loud and punchy as they need to be. So I start by turning off the overheads in the room for the kick, and then I turn off everything for the snare and everything for the cymbals. So that way all we have is pure kick. And then what I like to do is export that kick just by itself so that we can affect it properly. Okay, so now we have our kick. I'm gonna label that and send it to a mixer track. Now I'm gonna do the same thing for the snare. So I'm only gonna leave the snare top and the snare bottom mic on. And I'm gonna export that as well. So now we've got our kick and our snare, just pure signal with basically no room. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the kick and I'm gonna mute the actual kick mic and only leave the overheads and the room on. And I'm gonna mute everything with the snare and cymbals and everything. So now we have just the room and overheads by themselves. Gonna export that. And then I'm just gonna do the same thing for the snare. We're gonna mute the kick entirely. So no kick is playing. Then I'm gonna go to the snare and only have the overheads in the room. Having the dry signal of the kick and the snare is going to allow us to shape it and design the transient, compression, all that stuff to make it as punchy as it can be without having to mess up the room sound. And then we can affect the room sound separately, and you can blend it and mix it into how you like. You can mix it however you like. Then we're going to go to the cymbals. And I'm just gonna unmute the cymbals completely. I just export the hats, the crashes, China, everything together. Now that we have everything exported, we can go to contact 7, replace as sample or sampler. So that way we still have the MIDI, but we don't have a bunch of drums taking up all our CPU. Gonna put the kick room and the snare room into a mixer track, and then the cymbals. Now what I like to do is take my kick and my snare and route them to one track together, because those are gonna be the most powerful drums in the mix and the most focused on. Then I'm gonna put a soft clipper on it and a limiter, because I really like to push the drums. Some might say my drums are too loud. I say fuck them. All right, we're gonna do kick and snare room also in its own track. So kick, snare, room. And I'm just gonna change it to blue or something just so I don't confuse myself in the future. And then we got our cymbal loop and the regular cymbals, and I'm also gonna route those to a bus so that they are together in holy matrimony, so that we can EQ them, you know, all together. And I'm not going to do a lot of mixing stuff until we have everything together, because, you know, everything exists in context. But there is one thing that I think you should always do to your snare. You hear that ringing around here? It's like right above the fundamental. It's like right above the fundamental of the snare. And I just find if you have that EQ'd out pretty drastically, it affects how much of a punch you can get out of your snare without having those annoying frequencies. I'm going to come back and mess with the kick some more later, but I know I'm always going to do this classic smile EQ. Bring up the highs, bring out the lows, and take some out of the middle. So just something like this I know is going to work most likely. No EQ on the kick. EQ on the kick. Immediately brings it up. I'm going to put a very heavy compressor called Gain Reduction by JST onto the room, which sounds a little bit drastic, but when you hear it in context and the difference it makes, it's fucking bananas. I'm going to take out some low end of the room, maybe around here. And that's before the compressor. And then after the compressor, because the compressor starts to introduce some more harmonics that we might not like and some low end. And I'm just going to put a limiter on it. Okay, so see how much of a difference this makes. No kick snare room at all. Oh wait, you can still hear some. Okay, no room sound. Now with the rooms. So bass. I'm just gonna draw out bass for the whole thing. And I am gonna be using Gen Bass by Submission Audio. Theirs is like straight out the box, just sounds really good, and I've tried using Abyss by Impact Soundworks, but it's just not the same to me. So it starts on the C, because it starts open and drop C. And then we got 78787. So 7. That's what, G? Yeah. G. G sharp. And then 7 on that one. Let's see, D. And then that just keeps playing for a minute. Like, that just keeps going on. And whenever it comes in like that, I'm going to turn the velocities up on every part of the bass. And it just goes da-na, na-na-na-na. And then it just goes da-na, da-na-na. I'm going to turn the volume up on this a bit so we can hear it better. So now that we're getting into the verse, for these sections in between, just like we did with the cymbals, I'm going to turn down the velocity some. And then when the main riff comes back, we go back to full velocity. And that's really going to give us more of that energy of how they have like the ping pong, you know, the tension and release type of verse. And then we can just copy and paste that for the whole chord, or for the whole verse. So it's just going to be the D sharp, the same rhythm, except I'm going to take up the velocity because we're getting into the pre-chorus, so it's like building the energy. So a big thing with music production is like energy manipulation. So all these little things that we're doing on each instrument is going to add up in the end result. And I think it's important to do these things, especially with fake instruments, because they're already fake, so you're already battling that. But if you do things like this, it's going to give it more realness and make the track come alive a little bit more. All right. But now there's some movement in the guitars, and this is where we're going to run into some problems when we do the guitar. But I'm going to show you what you can do to the bass to get rid of that problem. So with the bass, we're going to try to follow that rhythm exactly, and then I'll show you when we get to the guitars. So it's like da-na-na-na. All right, now we got to copy that kick and cymbal pattern we did before with the triplet. So let's go triplet. Bang, 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 bang. Okay, so here's our bass sounding good. Let's try the wide low gain. And after we export all of our different elements, we're going to blend them and mix them together. And I'm going to show you some tricks on how to make your bass and guitar work together. And again, I'm just exporting all of these elements because my CPU can't handle a bunch of contact instruments, and I'm sure there's a lot of people with that problem also. So this is how I get around that, is by once I have a part, I export it, and then you just have to stick to that part and say like, that's the part now. And it's actually, I think it's good for helping you to be able to make stuff faster, because you have to commit to stuff when you do that. So I'm gonna label this bass MIDI and replace it as a sampler, so that way we still have the MIDI around without having to have the contact library around. I'm gonna do the guitar now. And when I do the guitar, I'm actually just going to copy the bass MIDI to the guitar. And then that way it's a lot more simpler, because I like it to be a lot more simpler. So for the guitar, I'm using Shreddage 3 Hydra by Impact Soundworks. It's one of my favorites. It just does what it's supposed to do. I'm going to use the Modern Metal 2 preset. So I'm just going to activate all these multi-trackings for now, just so it sounds good. And I'm going to go ahead and put a limiter on there. And we're also going to high pass the guitar around the fundamental. One thing that really messed me up about guitar and bass for a very long time is that I didn't realize you can completely remove the fundamental from the guitar, and as long as the bass is sitting right with it, you can't tell, and it makes a superbly clean mix. All right, so let's copy that MIDI from our bass to our guitar. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy how much is sounding like the song right now, and we haven't done anything to the tone or anything. Okay, so every time it does the don't, it's a power chord, and then it goes to single notes. So let's do that. So the way we shift between power chords and single notes is our handy dandy key switches. I think it's D. Nope. So then in the verse, we got the power chord. Okay, so what we're gonna have to do to mimic that vibrato, we could use Impact Soundworks vibrato, but listen, it's not that great, but if we make our own, I'm gonna create an automation clip for the pitch and the channel. Copy value for 50%. And for this part, just for when we want the vibrato, I'm gonna make unique. And then I'm gonna turn on the LFO. And I'm gonna make it kinda fast. I'm gonna turn the amount up and make it fast and swifty. Turn the tension up a bit so we got a nice sine wave. Now, this is the thing I was talking about earlier with the bass. So for the chorus, the guitars in the original are doing this type of rhythm, but that takes away from the guitars because of just the nature of the library. So what I usually do is I just do the rhythm with the bass, and then I'll just do a sustained power chord for the guitar. And maybe for some places I'll leave it in just to give it a little more of an accent. But it's gonna sound more sustained and leveled out if we keep the power chords just sustained. Now I'm gonna export the guitar without any of the EQ just so I can start from scratch. And now we got our main guitar. Now we just need to add the accented guitars on the power chords and the lead guitar in the chorus. And then we'll be ready to start on vocals after we mix the instrumental a little bit. All right, so now we got our rhythm guitar. Here, whenever the guitars really come in and everything comes together, you can hear like a little a higher pitched guitar. Gonna go back to my Shreddage 3 Hydra, and I'm gonna change it to Modern Metal 1, and I'm just doing that to just give it a different, a slightly different tone. It might just be power chords that are high up. Yeah, I think it's just straight power chords. So yeah, that's about the only time that comes in. So we will go ahead and export it. And it sounds a little messy right now, but that's mainly just because of the, you know, the sound of the finger going up and down the fretboard that they do to give it more realism. It can sometimes get in the way. So the way we're going to make it not get in the way is by just cutting that shit out. Bam. And then I'm going to turn on general bleeding for those accented guitars. So that way there's no clicks or pops. We can also take out the same thing on the rhythm guitar. But you got to be careful because if you take out too much, it does lose some of the realism. I'm going to add some reverb to those high-pitched guitars so that the chop-off isn't as noticeable. All right, that sounded good to me. Now we just need to do the chorus guitars. It sounds like they got like a wah-wah pedal or something on there, or maybe even a phaser, which we could replicate just using a synth, but I think we might be able to get away with it with the guitar. We'll find out. Okay, so that sounds like it might just be copying the rhythm guitar, but just up high. So we're just gonna copy our MIDI from the bass and go back up in here, go up high. Okay, so in the high one, the C starts high instead of low. So I'm gonna change the performance style to mono lead high. And maybe now some of the vibrato from Shreddage will actually work. Well, actually, I'm just gonna delete the pitch automation. And if you wanna get rid of any type of automation, after you delete the clip, you go to project and initialize controls and delete event. And then you're back to normal. So for this lead, I'm just gonna do multi-tracking for 1 and 2. And I'm gonna do one at 1 octave and one an octave up or down. Okay, so we got guitar lead 1. Guitar lead 2 will be, let's try higher, but I don't think we can go now. And then I'm just gonna do multi-tracking for 3 and 4 and not 1 and 2. And I know it sounds kind of annoying right now, but we're gonna tame that with some EQ and get it nice and spunky. It's time to get spunky, spunky, spunky. But now we've got every guitar element, every bass, everything we need. So I'm going to replace contact with the sampler, so that we got the MIDI and we don't got the CPU problems. And we're gonna eat a grilled cheese and it's gonna be amazing. Okay, guitar lead 2. Now I'm gonna pan this, I don't know, I'm thinking maybe, yeah, 60, 62 to the left. And then the other one, maybe 40 something to the right. I don't know. Then I'm gonna send these both to a mixer track. And then I'm gonna route them both to a bus so that we can control both the leads with one flick. Now this lead guitar is kind of all over the place with volume, so since it's not a main element and I can do this, I'm just gonna crank that shit into the limiter and put some EQ on there. And I'm just gonna push it straight up into the limiter and take down the output gain quite a bit. Yeah, and around this 1000 mark is where I'm hearing a lot of ugliness. So we're going to take out some of the 1000, and we're also going to take out some around the 2 to 4K range. And I'm gonna add some delay and reverb to it, and it's gonna sound real nice. So I'm gonna load up Neutron 2 by Isotope. It's got a really nice preset for electric bass, beefy modern bass, And I think it does a little too much in the sub region though, so I am gonna tweak it a bit. And I'm taking away this EQ because I'm gonna do something else later that's gonna essentially do the same thing, but where we have more control. So after Neutron, I'm gonna use a Fruity Parametric EQ2 just to add some extra sculpting. I'm just taking out the super low sub because the kick is going to be taking up that region. And we can also low pass this quite a bit. And I like to take out this like mid range because the guitar is really going to be taking up this like 500 to 1000 range. So yeah, I'm gonna export this bass with the effects on it because once again, CPU problems. This is how I produce everything because I'm always trying to conserve that CPU. We got our bass with effects on it and we can get rid of that mixer track. Now here's the secret bass trick to get that high end back. We're gonna take the bass, route to this track, not route to this track only. We're going to apply some like digital distortion. I really like the kilohertz distortion, so that's what I'm gonna use. I'm gonna turn the drive up a lot, and then afterwards we're gonna EQ out everything except for the high end around the like 1000 to 4000 area, like the really scratchiness area. And then I'm gonna do a fruity balance afterwards to tame the volume back down. And we can play around with different distortion types. This is what is known as a bass fuzz track, which if you've been making rock for any time, you already know about that. And I personally like the digital distortion sound, and if you don't, you could just use like a bass amp sim and do it that way. And just like add some heavy distortion to it, but I like the digital. I'm a fan of the digital. All right, now let's get this guitar mixed in well with everything. I like to listen to a part where the guitar has kind of got everything else going on. And I like to mix the guitars at areas of the song where everything is coming together so I can really hear what I'm doing and how it works in context. So I'm just gonna do the chorus because we have the lead guitars and we have the cymbals and we got everything going. So I'm gonna load up a Neutron once again, and I'm just gonna start removing some of that low end from the rhythms. I'm gonna compress that baby. And I'm also going to put another high pass after the first one in Neutron because I don't know, sometimes it just seems like it doesn't work the first time, so I do it again. Now we've got our parametric EQs, so we can get a little bit more granular. I'm just gonna take out everything until around like 10K. Because the cymbals are going to be taking up that part and we really don't need it. Now Now, sometimes I do like to put in my JST guitars plugin, or it's not my plugin, but it's one of my favorites for compressing guitars. But sometimes it's a little too aggressive. Sometimes it don't work. Sometimes it do. All right, I'm gonna see how this guitar sounds and other parts of the mix. Yeah, I'm gonna leave this Joey Sturgis plugin off. I'm gonna automate the mix and have it only come in the chorus, because that's the only time it really sounds good, in my opinion. And it'll make the chorus stand out a little bit more. And that's good enough for the guitars right now, so I'm gonna bounce that out. So once again, we save our CPU. Now these drums are weak right now, so we need to de-weakify them. And once again, Neutron 2 is coming in for the rescue. By the way, if you can't afford this plugin, you can get it on Splice for like $15 a month. I just did that whole rent to own thing until I got it. But yeah, they have some good presets in here. I usually use acoustic, and it depends on what type of drums I'm using, but I'll either use the added snap or a basic drum bus. I think in this case it's best for basic drum bus. And this is just being used on the kick and snare bus. So we're just affecting the kick and snare together right now. And I feel like I increased the highs a little too much on the kick, so I'm gonna bring that down. And I'm gonna add a transient shaper to the kick because it's not feeling like it's getting there for me. With Neutron 2 off, and then with Neutron 2 on, you can just hear how much it's gluing that kick and snare together. And I feel like the low end of this kick, or the snare, is just a little too much. So I just brought that down a little bit. And now I need to bring up the volume of the cymbals a bit. Because even though I'm not a fan of cymbals and I don't really like messing with them, it's just, you know, how loud they are is really going to determine a lot about the energy. And last thing we really need to do with the instrumental is I'm going to take this kick and snare bus, I'm going to route it to this track, not route to this track only. And I'm going to do some parallel compression, but like hardcore. So I'm going to use gain reduction again, which is this bad boy. And then I'm just going to take the volume down a lot using Fruity Balance. All right, now I'm hearing something muddy. Let me take everything out except for the drums. And this is why samples are really good for kicks sometimes, because dang. One way we could fix that is with, let's see how hard it's going in here. Okay, yeah, we could use a motherfucking noise gate. I'm just going to use Fruity Limiter, the Dynamics Fruity Limiter. I'm going to go to the preset noise gate. All right, let's see what we're working with. Oh. Okay, so that's sounding pretty good. Yeah, so now we just need to do the vocals, and I need to look up the lyrics because I don't remember the lyrics. Now I'm gonna be recording this in this terrible room, which I usually wouldn't advise. Most of the time, I actually record in the car, but I'm not gonna do that for this video because I don't think my battery would last long enough with OBS running and me recording at the same time. So I am going to show you a way you can record in a terrible room and get it to sound good though. So yeah, let's do that right now. I'm also going to be showing you a lot of tuning tricks because I haven't warmed up my voice at all today. So my pitch is going to be all over the place, and I'm going to show you how you can tune that shit and make it sound natural. So if you can't sing, yes you can. Let me show you my recording process too, actually. So I like to pick just any mixer track. And boom, this is what we're going to be recording with. I have my Focusrite Scarlett something 2i2 or whatever already connected. So I'm just going to choose the input and then bam. And you can see, hold up, how much latency I have. It's ridiculous. But if I lower the buffer size, once again, my CPU will get destroyed and eat itself. So, yeah, latency is fine. And now that I have that on, I have the input 1 of the Scarlett going into this mixer track. I've set that up previously by going to the FL Studio SEO right there. And, yeah. And then I think... yeah, and I just have it set to default input and output. Yeah, but then I just record directly in the playlist, and I also have this fruity balance on the mixer track where I'll be recording, so that I can't hear it in my headphones, but it will still be recorded to FL Studio because the latency is so bad. If I hear it in my headphones, I'm gonna have an aneurysm. So I just would prefer not to have an aneurysm, you know. And usually what I do for vocals is I'll have one main vocal and then I'll have 2 doubles. I have 1 double to the right and 1 to the left. So I'm going to record all of that right now. And I will try my best to be Adam. I can't escape this hell. I can't escape this hell. Somebody got me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. And then I would put both of these vocals together, and I'm not going to fix the latency until after I've recorded everything, so I can move everything all at once. Somebody help me take the sun. Okay, now we got 2. Let's go for another. And I'll usually do like 3 to 5 takes. And sometimes I'll do like fucking 20 if I'm just not getting it right. And then, yeah, and I'll show you the comping process and all that shit. All right, I'm just going to do 3 takes because I'm pretty sure my brother's sleeping. So one thing I really like to do for choruses is add these like super raspy vocals that aren't really even going to be heard, but it adds like a whole another layer of aggression to the track. It's kind of like the bass fuzz thing. Same concept. And see, for the actual lead vocal, I don't want it to sound like that. But one of the hardest things with vocal performance is just like getting out of your own head and like being okay sounding ridiculous so that you can discover different things you can do with your voice and you can add layers like this, because I don't want the lead vocal to sound like I'm fucking Metallica or something, you know. It's just those extra rasp layers on the side are going to give it so much more power when the chorus comes in. So yeah, I'm gonna do one more of those. And that's pretty much it for that, except another good thing is to have vocals at a lower octave. It brings the whole thing together. So now we have our vocals, and I'm gonna take each one of these and bounce it out to its own separate track. And I'm only doing this because my room isn't treated well, so if you listen to this, you can tell there's a lot of echo. Somebody got me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. You could hear like mucus in that one. So I'm just gonna highlight this section. I'm gonna go to the mixer track where all of them are at, and I'm gonna put a limiter on it because I put a limiter on everything. Raw Vox. And then I'm going to I'm gonna export each one of these tracks individually, put them into a folder, and then I'm gonna upload them to this AI de-echo thing. So now that I've got all the vocals exported, I'm gonna go into La AI, and I'm gonna click on this little settings thing and go to de-echo. And this is gonna take out the shitty room noise and the echo in my room. Go to select files, put them all up in there. Now this is just one of many ways you can do a de-echo type of thing. The RX10 by Isotope is a really good one, and also Waves Clarity is another plugin you can use. I just use the AI thing because I don't do this often, and it just makes more sense financially for me to just pay for minutes on La AI. So now all our vocals have been processed with no reverb. I'm gonna download them, and we're gonna start comping this vocal. Oh, first of all, let me show you this. No echo. So many times I've tried. It's crazy. I don't even understand how that works. So usually what I do when I'm comping vocals is I go ahead and I put them all into the same mixer track, and I put some compression and EQ just so I can hear what it's actually going to sound like, what the finished product is actually going to sound like. So that way make my decisions based on that and not what they sound like raw. I'm gonna put a high pass filter and put it up to maybe around 50, 65, and then I'm gonna throw gain reduction on it because that's just a really good plugin. I can't escape this hell. So this is how I comp vocals. I'll get all three tracks lined up, and then this track is gonna be the lead vocal. So I'm gonna splice all of this together to make the lead vocal, and what's left over is gonna be my doubles. That's usually how I do it because I usually don't have enough time to do a whole lot of takes, but I don't really care too much about the doubles because they're gonna be in the background. So I mainly focus on just getting the main vocal right. I can't escape this hell. All right. I can't escape this hell. I really don't like that one, so I'm probably not going to use that one. Let's see about this one. I can't escape this hell. Actually, for that one, I think just one is good by itself. I can't escape. It's a little more shaky, but I like the emotion in that one. And that's another thing. When I'm comping vocals, I mainly pay attention to the emotion. Unless it's something that tuning like absolutely can't fix and I have to get rid of it. What I'm looking for is the emotion for the main lead. To the next part. So many times I've tried. So many times I've tried. I really like tried, so I'm gonna just do that so I can remember to go back to it. So many times I've tried. Okay, so I'm gonna take the so many times I've from this one. Oh, another important thing, general bleeding, so you don't have any zero crossing clicks and pops and whatnot. Now I'm gonna take the tried from main 2, and the cool thing is if you do it right, like you can't even tell that it's been comped. Times I've tried. And sometimes you can like overlay one vocal with the other to make it sound more natural. In this case, it's not really working though. I've tried. That sounds good to me. Move on to the next one.
but I'm still caged inside.
Let's try this one.
But I'm still caged inside.
I like the side. That one sounded good.
But I'm still caged inside.
Oh, I hate that one. That's definitely going to be a double. So I'm going to use main 2 for that one. And also, I'm going to pick up the volume here because we're going to run into some problems with compression if the volumes for everything is so crazy. So I'm going to fix it as much as I can as early as possible just to go ahead and get it straight.
But I'm still caged inside. Somebody got me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. Somebody got me through.
All right, I'm going to take that. Somebody get me through, or somebody get me.
Got me through this nightmare. Got me through this nightmare.
And I like that, through this nightmare.
Got me through this nightmare.
There we go. And now we have our comped vocal. All right, I'm just going to adjust some of these volumes to get it a little bit more even. So not perfect with the volume, but it's good enough because we can fix the rest in Melodyne. So you can do this with Newtone or any auto-tune plugin. I just prefer Melodyne because I've been using it for years, and it's just the shit, you know? So what I'm doing right now with the transfer thing is I'm recording this whole chopped up Frankenstein vocal take into one file. So this is going to be like the main lead file.
I can't escape.
So I usually start by bringing the pitch center all the way to 100. And if you're having trouble figuring out which note it's supposed to be, I'll just like hard tune it. So I can really figure it out.
I can't escape. I can't escape.
So I think that's right. That's gonna have to do. And then you see these like little notes that come in right before the actual note comes in. There's these little spaces. I like to chop that off and leave it alone and just keep that part sounding natural. And then you can tune the actual part where the note's being heard a little bit harder.
I can't escape this.
And I need to take down some of this tuning.
I can't escape. I can't escape this hell.
And it's okay if your vocals sound like not perfect on the main lead, because we're going to be tuning the doubles super, super hard. And that's going to make the main lead sound more in tune. So with Hell, I'm pretty shaky right here. So this is a good time to cut off that first note and just tune this part. It's not like perfect, but it's passable.
So many times.
And tuning the lead vocal can be really tedious, but once you get over that hump of doing the doubles is really easy, and all the harmonies and stuff, because you can be a lot more lenient with how you tune it, and you can tune it a lot harder without it being noticeable. And you can decide like how auto-tuned you want it to sound. I like mine to have a bit of like an auto-tune flavor to it, because I like the sound of hard-tuned vocals with rock, because it's just, you know, classically rock isn't associated with that, and I just think it's cool.
So many times I've tried,
And side needs to be a little bit louder.
but I'm still caged inside. But I'm still caged inside. But I'm still caged inside.
And sometimes if you bring a note like a full semitone up and it sounds a little bit unnatural, you can bring down the formant by the same amount that you brought up the pitch, and it'll make it sound a little bit more natural.
But I'm still caged inside. I can't control myself. So what if you can see the darkest side of me? No one would ever change me. No one would ever change the animals like I've become to me. No one would ever change the animals like I've become to me. No one would ever change the animals like I've become.
And you'll notice like with the become, it's got like a, I don't know what that's called, but like the pitch goes down. And I'm going to keep that even though it's not perfectly on pitch, but it adds a lot of emotion to do things like that. And then the doubles can just be perfectly tuned to that note and it'll sound good.
Like I've become, help me believe it's not the real me. Bubbles like Eve, come, help me believe it's not the real me. Come, help me believe the real, it's not the real believe, it's not the real me. Believe 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 it's not the real me. Somebody help me tame the animal. Believe it's not the real me. Somebody help me tame the animal.
So usually at this point, I would do some de-essing. However, I don't have a de-esser on this computer yet, so I'm just going to tame a little bit of the highs around the 3.4K range.
If you can see the darkest side of me, no one would ever change the animals like I've become. Help me believe it's not the real me. Somebody help me tame the animal.
So there we go. We got our main vocal. And I'm going to export that with all of the effects, even the compression on it, just so, you know, save CPU, you know the drill. And then this is going to be, the way I have the compressor and the EQ set up is going to be my default for how I also do the doubles, so everything sounds even and has the same tone to it. And then afterwards, I'm going to do a little bit more granular EQ and stuff just to get rid of resonant frequencies and whatnot. Now I've got my main vocal. So main vocal. I'm going to put that into its own mixer track and I'm going to turn it down a little bit. And then I got to go into Melodyne and I'm going to delete the main vocal that we've tuned. And I'm going to mute Melodyne and I'm going to make sure the main vocal is down and I'm going to put a fruity balance on it on the next vocal that we're tuning and do it all the way to the left. And then I'm just going to line these vocals up. I'm just going to, it doesn't really matter about takes to me at this point because it's doubles. So I'm just going to take this Frankenstein double and I really don't care what they sound like exactly.
So many times I've tried.
So yeah, I just used the main vocal to dictate the timing of the double. And we fixed the timing on the main vocal, so now we have a reference vocal for our doubles. So we can determine where everything needs to be.
I can't escape this cell. Control myself. Control myself. Control myself. Believe it's not the real me. Somebody help me tame the sadness.
Not perfect, but it's close. And so now we can add this double to Melodyne. So with the main vocal, I usually tune it along with the instrumental just to make sure I tune it right. And then with the double, I tune it without listening to the instrumental so I can make sure it matches to the lead vocal, because in the beginning we had to use the instrumental as reference for what notes, but now we can just use the lead vocal as reference for which notes. And also the tuning process is going to be a lot easier because I'm just gonna do like super fucking T-Pain level auto tune.
I can't escape this cell.
Because those super tuned vocals or doubles really make the lead vocal sound a lot better sung.
I can't escape this. I can't escape this cell. Many times I've tried. So many times I've tried. So many times I've tried. So caged inside. But I'm still caged inside. Somebody get me through this nightmare. But I'm still caged inside. So what if you can see I can't control myself? So what if you can see?
All right, that sounds good. So I'm going to mute the fruity balance so that the double is centered. So that way later I can decide whether or not which way I want to pan it and all of that stuff. I'm going to export that with all the effects, all the auto tune, yada yada. All right, so now we've got our double one. I'm just going to call that dub one and delete all that. And then this one is going to be our double two. For the second double, I'm going to do the same thing as I did for the first, except I'm going to change this to the right side instead of the left. And I'm going to pan this to the left and turn it down some. So I'm just going to tune the second vocal the same way I did the first, really hard T-Pain style. So now we have most of the work done. We've got our main vocals and our dub all together now. So I'm gonna reset the volume of the main vocal, take the first dub and the second dub, pan one left, one right, and I'm gonna put both of the dubs into the same mixer track. So 35, and then I'm just gonna turn down the volume on the doubles, and then I'm gonna bring the dub into this mixer track and also the main vocal. That'll be called our vocal bus. And one thing I like to do is a limiter once again on the doubles. I just like the doubles to be really squashed.
I can't escape this cell. So many times I've tried. Somebody get me through. I can't control myself. So what if you can see?
And with the dubs also, I don't want those S's and T's that might be slightly misaligned to get in the way or poke out. So I'm going to turn down some of the high end, and I'm going to make sure a lot of the low end is taken out too. But not too much, or then it sounds kind of empty. Now on the vocal bus, we have our... And before I even do anything to the vocal bus, just see how much better it sounds just with those doubles.
Control myself. So what if you can see the darkest side of me? No one would ever change the animals like I've become.
So it's already sounding fire, and we haven't even done much yet. And we're also going to scoop a lot of the mids out because they're interfering.
I can't escape this cell.
Actually, I'm only going to be using one of the rasp layers to just emphasize when it says animal I've become, so that it'll go like this.
Never change the animals. Never change the animals like I've become. Help. Never change the animals like I've become.
And since I'm only using one vocal, I'm going to use stereo enhancer to make it sound more wide.
Never change the animals like I've become. Help. Never change the.
And then with tuning,
Never change the animals like I've become.
And I'm gonna take out a lot more of the low end since this is just gonna be more of a felt not heard type of thing.
Ever change the sound animal like I've become.
And I'm just gonna export that. All right, there we go. Now we got our rasp tuned. And I'm also gonna use stereo enhancer for the low vocal instead of using both takes, just because I'm kind of stretched for time. So
what if you can see the darkest side of me? No one would ever change this animal like I've become.
all right, and then with the low vocal, I'm just gonna do exactly like what I did with the doubles and just tune it super hard. So I'm just gonna skip that part because this is gonna get boring real quick. Now we got all the vocals tuned and we got everything we need. So now we get on to the fun stuff. So in the verse of this song, there's like a radio effect on his voice and then some like selective delays. So I'm going to show you how to do that. First of all, we're not going to use doubles for the first verse. So yeah, we'll bring the doubles in on the pre-chorus. I'm going to take this main vocal for the verse before the pre-chorus comes in, and I'm going to make it unique as sample. And I'm going to put that into its own mixer track so we can affect it and have more control over it. So in the original, his vocal has some distortion or saturation on it, and it also has the radio effect. So first, I'm going to load up Camel Crusher, which is a free plugin, and just the first preset, Annihilate, is really good. I'm going to turn the mix at like 50% maybe. And then after that, I'm going to put a bandpass filter on it.
I can't escape this sound. I can't escape this sound. I can't escape this sound.
And that distortion might be a little too hard, so we'll try a British clean maybe.
I can't escape this sound.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I can't escape.
Let's take out the breath.
I can't escape this sound. So many times I've tried. Times I've tried.
And now I'm gonna route this radio voice to a delay track. I'm gonna route to this track, not route to this track only. I'm gonna name this delay. Okay, now we're gonna load up Fruity Delay 2. I'm gonna turn the dry all the way down, and I'm gonna turn the time to about here is where I think. And then I'm gonna create an automation clip for the input of the delay so we can decide how much delay there is, or we can decide when the delay shows up. Now I'm gonna copy value on this input volume and paste on max right there so that the highest this will go is the default setting. So let's try here.
Escape this sound.
What? Oh.
I can't escape this sound.
It needs to be a little bit before. Yeah, right there. Escape. And then after the delay, we need to put some EQ on it so that it's even more radioed.
Escape this sound. I can't escape this sound.
And then I'll put a little bit of reverb after that delay also.
I can't escape this sound.
So that's pretty much it for the first verse vocals. Now I'm going to take these vocals and we're going to go back into the bus, the vocal bus, for the pre-chorus and the chorus vocals. And I'm going to throw Neutron 2 on it again. It's coming back again, just so I can shape the sound of all the vocals together.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. So what if you can see the darkest side of me? No one would ever change the animal like I've become. Help me believe it's not the real me. Somebody help me tame the animal.
I'm gonna take out a little bit more of that low end or the high end on the double.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. So what if you can see the darkest side of me?
Okay, and now I'm gonna export this vocal bus with Neutron on it because my computer's acting up a little bit. And once I start adding the reverb and delay, I know my computer's gonna act up a little more, you know what I'm saying? So we're gonna nip just in the bud before it becomes a problem. So I'm gonna delete all these, the dubs and the main vocal, because this file right here is the complete vocal bus. So we can send that to a mixer track, and I can delete this vocal bus. I'm gonna put a limiter on it. Okay, so this is pretty much done except for 3 things. The vocals are sounding great. We need to give it some space with some reverb, and we need some delays in there, and we need some parallel compression to really, and some saturation to bring it all together and make it sound more aggressive. So this vocal bus is going to be routed to 3 separate tracks. 1, 2, 3. The first thing we're going to do is delay. I'm just going to do a regular fruity delay 2. I'm going to turn the dry down all the way. I'm going to make it ping pong. And then what I like to do is add some saturation after the delay. It just sounds really distorted and nice, and I really like it, especially for rock stuff. And then we're going to do a bandpass filter on that delay so it's not sticking out too much. And let's just go ahead and see how that sounds so far.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself.
Probably turn it down a bit.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself.
Okay, so the delays are sounding good. Now we need to put a reverb on there. Now this is a hack right here, fellas and ladies. I'm going to use a reverb calculator to decide my pre-delay and decay time for the reverb. So we're going to type in our BPM, which is 122, and I'm going to go with large room. The reason this is important is because it leaves space for the dry vocal. So the dry vocal has like room to breathe before the reverb comes in. And it's especially important whenever you have like a big reverb, and I like big reverb. So let's see, for the decay time, it's gonna be that. I'm just gonna copy it and paste it into here. And then let's get our pre-delay time, which that might be a little much. So sometimes I like to use the pre-delay times from like small room and then use the decay time of large room. But it's up to you. You can do it however you like. Yeah, you can have it however you like. Okay, and then I'm going to put a parametric EQ before the reverb to take out some of the S's so the S's don't get too crazy. And this is called the Abbey Lee Road technique, some shit like that. And then I'm going to bring down the volume of this. And also this reverb is completely wet because the dry signal is getting fed into here, and this channel is just reverb and nothing else.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. So what if you can see the darkest side of me? No one would ever change the sad almost like I've become. Help me believe it's not the real me. Somebody help me tame the sad.
And that sounded nice. And now for the very last thing, I'm going to take Camel Crusher again. I'm going to leave it on British Clean. And then I'm going to get a limiter, and I'm just going to squash the fuck out of it. And then I'm going to bring down the output gain and mix it in. And it just depends on how distorted you want your vocal to sound.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control.
Alright, and now I have this low vocal that's been tuned super hard.
So what if you can see the darkest side of me?
And all I've done with that is I've got it also pushed into the limiter hard.
Myself, so what if you can see the darkest side of me? Help me believe it's not the real me.
Right now I just need to bring up the volume of the guitars a little bit.
Somebody get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. So what if you can see the darkest side of me? No one would ever change the animals like I've become. Help me believe.
I think we have done it, so let's listen to the whole thing. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like the project file to this song, go to my Patreon, and I appreciate you. Watch out for spiders.